Hello again. Something I've learned by existing on Earth is that if you want to get rich, you should take money from those who don't have any. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it seems to be working quite well for the ultra-wealthy. I've also learned that this rule applies especially in times of crisis. Another thing I've learned is that there are many ways to skin a cat, and in today's video we'll be taking that saying quite literally and utilising all of them for extreme profit. So, welcome to Obenseuer, or Open Sewer to you and I. It's a district set up by the city of Stahlberg to solve their homeless problem, because as we all know, that is the solution to homelessness. Just put them all somewhere else. In the US, it's called California, and it smells about the same as Obenseuer. The place is also home to a burgeoning fungal epidemic, but that's probably not a big deal, don't worry about it too much. I'm sure nothing weird will happen related to the mushrooms. Now, our character is named Land King, because he's been given the wonderful opportunity to rise above the common peasantry of Obenseuer to the lofty heights of landlorddom. That's right. For some reason we've been granted an entire tenement block to rent out to the local homeless. Unfortunately, it's in a pretty bad state, so no one's going to want to live there until we've fixed it up a bit, because it turns out that beggars can be choosers. Let's go and check the place out. For some reason we have to pay a bridge toll to get over there, which is slightly unusual, but alright. Here in the front yard we find the world's noisiest generator and a few heaps of contaminated garbage. In the main stairwell we see yet more contaminated garbage and the completely bare doorway to a lovely two-bed flat, complete with contaminated garbage and glowing green mushrooms. This absolute sty will be our personal home, to decorate and do with as we please. But let's keep moving on for now, after downing a quick can of the local plonk to stave off the jitters, that is. Oh, and good news, I learned a new skill. Drinking. That's probably going to be quite an important one. Upstairs we find 3 more apartments, 2 of which are in a similar state to our own, with the third being happily occupied by a member of the insane clown posse. Don't worry too much about him. He doesn't pay rent and he'll occasionally sneak into our bedroom while we're sleeping and deposit logs of shit into our pockets, but other than that, he's a nice enough bloke. Moving even further on up, we find yet more rotting apartments, one of which has a rotting man living in it. Malone Patronus, whose Patronus spirit would appear to be the tumour that's growing in his lungs. He refuses to leave and he won't pay me rent, but instead offers to provide me with the game's tutorial. It's a bit of a raw deal if you ask me, but whatever, he'll see us through the first few steps of fixing up this rancid block. From him we get the building's blueprints and various objectives to get us started. For now, I'll leave him a quick gift and head back downstairs to start cleaning our place up a bit and making at least something resembling a bedroom in here. Of course, it's only technically a room if it's got a door, which currently it does not. This will cause us some problems, because you see, in a place like Obenseuer, sleeping in a completely open room isn't a great idea. That's why my bed is considered unsafe. It's bad for your mental health and also your inventory contents to sleep in such circumstances. But hey, it's what we've got right now, so it will have to do. It's not time to sleep just yet though, so out into the world we go. Now that we've inspected our shit heap, it's time to look at turning it into a shit home. Which is where this guy here, Samuel Jonason, comes in. He's our contractor, where we'll burn the vast majority of our money and resources to gradually upgrade the tenement towards something resembling livable. Because as I mentioned earlier, the local homeless population are surprisingly picky, and each have an individual set of requirements to match their income. The nicer their place, the more rent they'll pay, it's quite simple. He's got this massive crate for me to fill with the materials required for upgrades, and they also all have a monetary cost. Currently I have neither money nor resources, so we're going to have to look for ways to resolve that. Firstly, I managed to get myself out of bounds by trying to jump into a blocked off resource area. That's probably not the solution. Alright, let's try something else. One of the most depressing ways to earn a little cash here is to collect empty bottles and cans and deposit them in this machine here in the O market, which is something, but, well, not much. It's enough to afford a tin of sardines and some cleaning spray for the tenement though. Also beer. Need beer. The beer icon is pulsating. That's never a good sign. Alongside O Market, the 24/7 depression store, there's some cozy little market stalls, like this one selling houseplants. Not really something I'm after, personally. So let's explore another method for gaining things and making money. Good old stealing. Among the most ancient of human traditions, and remarkably easy in a place like this. This open caravan, for example, contains a number of useful things, but unfortunately it's not quite so simple, as stolen goods are marked as such, meaning most people won't buy them from you. But that doesn't stop us from stealing useful things like building materials, or an axe. I'm sure we'll find a use for that. We're going to visit someone named Mobleman in a minute, to look at his stock of furniture. But I think first we should briefly study the map together so that I can just say where I'm going and you'll be on board without being confused. At the furthest east side over the titular Obenseuer we have our tenement, as well as the one-stop shop just to the south of it. Then in the centre we have the Decular building, which is divided into A, B and C. A is where Jonathan and the Doctor live, C is where Mobleman lives, and B, well, we'll get to B later. Then in the west we have the two 24-hour shops, O Market and the pharmacy, as well as the Kolhola building, home to many apartments worth stealing from, as well as the Pod Hotel and Money Exchange, where you can change Obenseuer coins for real money, because that's a thing, by the way. Also over in the west are the two other tenement buildings, A and B, both of which we'll see much later on. Alright, we all on the same page now? Great. As I was saying, we're visiting Mobleman's furniture store. He sells many interesting things. Rat cages, paintings, makeshift bathroom objects, and cat cages. Huh. Not yet. Later. But more interesting to me right now is the fact that he'll also buy furniture, something we have a lot of in our nasty rancid tenement. So with that in mind, we'll head back there and busy ourselves with some amateur carpentry for the evening. Pretty much everything you do has a related skill, and I assume that having a higher carpentry skill will unlock a number of useful things for later. And making furniture to sell seems like it could be a decent source of early cash. But like I said before, we don't need to make our own right now, so after a not particularly relaxing sleep, which is interrupted by an apparently desperate need to take a dump, we'll rush upstairs to the nearest toilet and let it out. We've all been there. And then I whipped out that stolen axe and got a bounty. Oh, okay. Lesson learned. Don't equip stolen goods in front of people. We'll just jump to an alternate timeline where I didn't do that, and instead went up to the second floor to start clearing the nastiest of the apartments. The one with the dead body in it. Yeah, that's not great. We'll just leave that be for now, my inventory is full anyway. Unfortunately, in this timeline, my sleep wasn't quite so sound. Someone robbed me. Well, okay, fair enough. For a good while here in the early game, I'm just hunting for a decent moneymaker, which is why I'm making a few tables before heading over to Yompe Kurahara, who's talking to me in Finnish. Don't do that, Yompe, it's rude. Anyway, I'm here because he's a farmer, and farmers need people to do farming for them, it turns out. He'll provide us with the seeds and facilities to grow stuff for him. He specifically requests a few crops, but we can just plant anything here and give it to him for a payment if we want. Later on, I'll find out that this can be a decent source of reliable profit, but for now I just grow enough to get through this tutorial quest. It's hard to be a farmer though when you have no way of telling the time, so let's get out of here and start poking around Decular Sea, where it turns out the guy who owns that bridge lives, the one we pay a toll for. If we're willing to pay big money, he'll let us invest in his bridge, which would seem to just give us free passage over it. The cost for which is 500 real money. Considering the bridge costs 10 OC to pass, and 1 OC is 0.06 RM, or something like that, I struggle to see this as a good deal for me, honestly. I did also try splitting his face open with an axe, but that didn't seem like a very good deal either, so I'll just move on for now. After looting pretty much everywhere I could get into right now, I've ended up with an inventory full of, quite frankly, garbage. But I do have this chicken, so there's that. I kinda just need to find someone that'll buy all of that garbage. So I followed this sign to the bazaar, because that seems like the right kind of place. But this dude won't let me in without a passport, so that's a bust. Also, the bazaar doesn't exist yet, but we don't know that, so shh. One of the slightly less useless things I found whilst looting was a key for one of the storage units in the basement of Decula C, inside of which I find a watch. So that's nice, now I know the time. Turns out it's 6 AM. With this new information, I know that I need to stare at Mobleman's door for about 2 hours to sell him my handcrafted tables. When he eventually lets me in, it turns out they were only worth 90 OC, so, not great. I headed back over to Decula A for a poke around upstairs, and found this handy place with a nice toilet and a shower that runs clean water. Not all of Obenseuer's showers can claim to do that, unfortunately. The sink right next to it, for example, runs with shroom water, which isn't ideal. When I make it back to my place, I find a cat has been delivered. My cat. Fair enough. I won't skin this one, I promise. I'm still pretty unsure as to exactly what I should be doing at any given time, so if it seems like I'm a bit all over the place, it's because I am. On that note, let's go check out our crops. They're doing well. Nearly grown, in fact. After harvesting the first few of the turnip crop and giving them to Yompe, I'm rewarded with a tiny bit of cash. Really tiny, actually. Perhaps I'll have better luck with this slot machine I found underground here. Yeah, nope. Don't gamble, kids. It's not good for you. Right then, after a couple of days here, I have the most basic necessities figured out. I've located somewhere to take a dump and clean myself off, somewhere to fill large bottles of drinking water, and if I get really desperate for food, I've got my cat. Our next task then is to get to work on renovations and start earning a rental income. The easiest apartment to clear is this medium one on floor 2. I just need some cleaning spray to get rid of the graffiti. Which means I need some money. Which means harvesting some turnips. And since handing those in completed the quest for Yompe, he pays pretty well this time, before giving me another farming quest that I'll probably never complete. At O Market I pick up some supplies, meaning smashed potatoes, beer and cleaning spray, and head home to finish up. There we go, one cleared apartment. Now to renovate it. Most of the really desperate tenants will be happy enough with just makeshift walls, heating and a bathroom. Everything else is just luxury, I guess. After heading to Jonasson and taking a mental note of all the crap I need, it's time to get looting. Time for some good old-fashioned breaking and entering. In the Kolhola building there's a telemarketing company. You can go in there and even work there if you really want, but all I'm after is the free axe that somebody's lodged into the door. Aside from that, just upstairs there's also a load of handy free stuff in this hoarder's place. I've been into a few houses like this back when I worked in telecoms. They have a real distinctive smell that's still burned into my nose. Anyway, they've hoarded plenty of food, which is nice. We'll be having that. I mentioned earlier that this building is also home to the money exchange, where I can turn real money into OC and vice versa. At this moment, OC is more useful to me so I can get some renovations started. And I never actually did the math whilst playing, but looking back I think that the rate going from real money to OC is way more favourable than the other way round. Either that or I can't do math good. Whatever the case, I'll loot the creepy rubber duck house on the top floor and then go sit outside the hardware store in the market until they open. Because I need some tarps and I just can't find any out here. When he finally opens up, we can buy some stuff and start our first renovation. We did it. But not quite. We need more cash and some more planks to actually finish the place off. So with that in mind, let's finally clear the apartment with the dead guy in it. Furniture is valuable and he certainly doesn't need it anymore. But for some reason, instead of selling it all, I actually used it to make my own place cozier. Priorities, I guess. I also piled up all of my stolen food. I think I must be a prepper at heart because I get a really good feeling seeing stockpiles of food like this. It's time for Land King to learn a hard lesson now about stealing, though.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
The police of Obenseuer apparently have very keen noses, and the more stolen goods you're carting about, the more likely they are to smell them on you. So occasionally I have to play this silly little cat and mouse game with the Market Square police in order to get to wherever I'm going. Another harsh lesson he learns is not to just jump around for fun. The height threshold for fall damage is really quite low in Obenseuer, and healing is quite expensive. So, in other words, the screen will be red for a little while here because I can't afford any healing items after that little incident. I can afford this sledgehammer though from the hardware man, which will allow me to access some new and shiny loot locations, including this little mushroom growing lab. There's not really anything of value in here though, apart from some keys. Another place I can bash into now is this other mushroom growing lab. Apparently they bricked in all of the mushroom growing labs. Anyway, there's also not much of particular value in here, but there is a shower, so we'll clean up real. I see. That shower contained mushroom water. This kills you. Interesting. On that note, I should probably heal up my broken legs from the parkour accident earlier. In the pharmacy I can buy bandages for 4 real money each. I thought this was OC and bought 4. Oops. But I do need them to continue being alive, so, I guess it's worth it. Alright, I'm waiting for renovations to finish now, so I guess we'll do some gambling to pass the time. Don't gamble, kids. The house always wins. Unless... No, always. So I sat for a while staring at the homeless people before realizing that there's a brick wall in my own tenement that I should probably go and bash down with my new sledgehammer. Behind it is some nice furniture, a bit of lore, and a wall calendar that tells me how many days I've been here for. I suppose that's useful for YouTubers making 100 days content. I got so excited about all of this stuff that I pissed myself. So quickly moving on, it's time to complete the final payment for those renovations. Here we go. Apartment 3 is now considered livable by the most desperate of Obenseuer's homeless. Let's go and find some now. You there, sad-looking nerd. Do I have the place for you? It turns out he's got a wife, somehow, and they'll be paying me 449 OC and 34.8 real money per week once they've moved in. This seems like a decent bit of cash each week, but I will just point out that shortly before I started playing, the devs changed rent payments from daily to weekly, without really scaling the amount to compensate. So if you do the math, unless you're going to be playing the game for a very long time, you're not really likely to ever recoup the cost of renovating the tenement with rental income alone. This is a depressing thought, but Land King does it for the love of the game, not the money. The upside is that they pay a deposit now, and being a landlord, I assume that I'll never have to give that back, so therefore I'm free to spend it. I'm thinking I'll spend it on my own place because I'm jealous of my tenants. They have a tarp taped up over their doorway and I don't. So after a trip to the hardware store and a quick money conversion, my apartment is getting its very own makeshift walls. Something that didn't occur to me is that now I can't access my stuff until the work is finished, which means it's time for you to meet the Pod Hotel. After finally selling all the furniture I've been piling up to Noblemen, I've got almost 6,000 OC. Enough to put a confident bounce into my step. A bounce that I'll carry into O-Market for some supplies. Beer, mashed taters, and tomato soup. Good stuff. So, the Pod Hotel. I can pay 53 OC for a night here, in a relatively comfortable and safe enough bed. They also have a nice bathroom with clean water. Very good. Unfortunately, I'm not particularly tired, meaning that I only slept for 4 hours, and will now spend another hour or so just sat on a bench here, staring into the middle distance. Whilst doing that, you can hear the Steam achievement for lasting a week in Obenseuer. I feel like the timing is symbolic. Congratulations, you've lasted a week. Now, are you going to do anything? No, game. No, I am not. I'm going to crawl back into the pod for another hour of sleep, and then sit on a couch, staring off into the middle distance again for another hour, before finally heading back out into the real world, in which it's time to move the main quest along. Now that we've got a tenant, Malone has told us to speak to some dude down in the basement of Tenement A, where we find the speakeasy, filled with interesting patrons. The owner tells us that the man who supplies their mash has gone quiet, and wants us to go check on him. He's called Max Masher, and lives somewhere in Decula B. I told you we'd go there later. On the way out of the basement, I checked this random little bird box near a portaloo, and found 2 gold rings inside. RuneScape bird's nest. With all the spare cash from furniture sales, I'll grab a massive stack of building supplies and start some more renovations. Enough to finish off the getting started quest that Malone gave us. So let's go see him. After giving the new tenants a quick inspection, of course. Upstairs, Malone gives us a new quest to obtain a passport. Cool, we need one of those. Apparently Mobile Man knows something about the passport seller that used to work out of Decula C. But what he knows is that no one does that. Or that they did do that, but now they don't. Whatever. He makes us pay him 75 real money for the information that Passmore in Tenement B can help me. That's determinative nominalism at its finest. I probably could have guessed that Passmore helped with passports, but we'll go see him. Of course, when we chat to him though, through a door because he's rude. Instead of a passport, he has a job for us. He asks us to go and check in the water tunnels under Obenseuer for access to the Bazaar Bank, presumably for the purposes of robbing it, but that's none of my business. Well, underground we go then, to the water tunnels, where there's sort of a puzzle spelled out through a number of notes. The people who used to work down here don't anymore, because, well, you know, mushrooms. There's a door we need to get through that's locked down due to various other floodgate positions, so we need to power up the control panel with some industrial fuses and then poke at buttons until the light down there turns green and lets us through. It's actually very simple, but I need a few fuses. So we're going back up topside, where we can make the final payment for our own apartment's walls, meaning our bed is now safe-ish. It's good enough for now. So after a quick, safe-ish sleep during which my neighbours shit on me, it's time to get back to work underground. However, my mental health is in a very bad place. A number of things are causing this, but I'm gonna say it's mainly getting shat on in my sleep. To offset this, ice cream. Yeah, that'll do it. Back underground, the panel is powered up and we can read some notes and mash some buttons to go deeper, where we do indeed find a tunnel leading to the Bazaar's bank. After heading back up and delivering this news to Passmore, he tells us to go and see another Passmore, Eliana, in the Kolhola building, where she has a photography shop. Obviously, we'll need a photograph for a passport, so this makes perfect sense, and I'm sure everything will be very simple when we arrive there. When we arrive there, things are not simple. She has a quest for me. A priest that lives in Decula B owes her money and has gone quiet. So she wants us to go and check on him. Fair enough, I can do that. I'm sure he's fine, maybe just needed some time to... Oh, he's dead. Wait, is he dead? He's kind of still wiggling around a bit. Well, there's a note from the girl next door and a very well-hidden button that opens the classic bookshelf door to another apartment, inside of which is a load of computer stuff, including this OS rat, which sounds like an old-school RuneScape YouTube channel. Sorry, I've been playing a lot of it, it's rotted my brain out. I watched all of By Release whilst recording this video. Anyway, the OS rat is some kind of handheld device that will let us connect to the other side. This is some stalker stuff, and of course this shroomed up priest is our tutorial. Let's have a chat. Jeez, that's very alarming. I was not expecting to be talking to a sleep paralysis demon today. He has a lot of not much to say, which is fair enough. I think I'd probably be fairly cryptic in his situation too. But ultimately we've done what Eliana asked of us, we've checked on the priest. I told her that he's in bad shape and can't talk anymore, and for some reason I lied, not telling her about the whole other side thing, and she directs me to the basement of Decula B for more answers and gives me a password. So, okay. Down there, a door opens for me and leads into a seemingly inhabited basement. So naturally I start stealing before noticing that someone's waiting to talk to me on the computer here. They're called Anya, and they want me to find the dude that lives here. Hans. Apparently he's gone and disappeared into the mines beneath Obenseuer. Because yes, there are mines beneath Obenseuer. It's a whole thing. Okay, we're gonna get straight into that, right after picking up some beer and taters. So down we go, deep underground, where immediately I find a pile of dynamite and a metal working bench that will let me make lockpicks from scrap. Very convenient. We'll be immediately putting that dynamite to use in order to release this little mine train from where it's trapped here. Also, I'm about to shit myself, and I don't think there's anything I can do about that right now. Oh dear. Land King didn't like that. He really didn't like that. Okay, we're just going to be stinky and injured for a while because I didn't bring anything to clean off with. Mercifully then, I find this apartment down here and it has a shower. Oh, that's good. Stamp it down the waffle grid. It also has a load of decently valuable wine to steal. Oh, and it also has a guy. Hope he didn't see all of the stealing. Anyway, it turns out he grows some orange mushrooms down here. I'm not really into the hallucinogenics scene, so I'm not interested in anything he has to offer, but apparently some of the miners take the orange shrooms as a performance-enhancing drug, but I'm natty, so we'll be moving on. Further down the mine tracks, I bump into this fellow here, Antero Eriksson, who helpfully marks various locations on my map. What I'm following down here, by the way, is a trail of orange glow sticks left by Hans, which leads through a locked gate, opened easily enough with a very large diesel-powered lockpick. But unfortunately that also leads to a whole load of rocks that'll need detonating, and I don't have that much dynamite. Well, it's simple enough. We're in the mines and, as they say, in a gold rush, sell shovels. Surely someone down here has become the nitroglycerin shovel salesman. And sure enough, a short way down the tracks in the service area, this market sells them for 134 OC each. Currently I have 318 OC, so we're going to have to make some cash. Before I left though, I spoke to this guy here that buys and sells construction items, and also talks to himself between every other sentence. Between mutters, he tells me that the tenement I now own comes with its very own mine access tunnels, which need fixing. We'll come back to that later. Let's get out of here. Full steam ahead. Oh, did I just get a speeding ticket? Ugh, whatever. Before fully leaving the mines though, I figured there's probably a good bit of dynamite scattered around the place, and it turns out I'm not wrong. Scooting about on the rails all over the place, breaking into abandoned shacks as I go, I find a good bit. I also found this odd little cave with a lonely looking camp down at its base. Getting a little closer, it's Gollum. And perhaps surprisingly, he doesn't really mind me taking his precious. Alright, I'm very tired now. So much so that the screen is going blurry and the text is getting wobbly. But also, I have just enough dynamite from looting to get through that blockage. There's someone down here, a strange fellow named Hesker, who seems to have a relatively comfy little spot going on. He thanks us for clearing that blockage with 200 RM. Tasty. He also tells us that Hans went even further down into a nasty irradiated area, which has a code lock. Apparently, if we get the correct papers and authorization, he'll let us in. I got a little bit confused here and started the quest to try and acquire a mining permit from the world's saddest man, which is not the same permit that I need to go and find Hans. But hey, I leveled up my paperwork skill. I realized eventually that the quest I really need to do is Collapse Hazard, the one about the tenement tunnels from before. Unsurprisingly, this requires a whole lot of dynamite, which means, as usual, I need cash, so let's get out of here. Along with my first breath of fresh air in days comes a police officer demanding over 30,000 OC to bribe my way out of jail. I think I'm going to run directly to Passmore, who I've learned from my actual real-life brother will buy your stolen valuables. Yeah, Big Bro had to help me out with the difficult video game. Anyway, this is very handy. That ring I nicked from Gollum is worth about 260 RM. Nowhere near its actual value, but that's how fencing stolen goods typically works, so I'll take it. So that's great, but his location is inconvenient. Presumably deliberately, it's quite difficult to avoid the police on the way back out after selling him stolen goods, but this isn't really a huge deal. The police will confiscate any stolen goods, but by this point you've already fenced them, so a stay in jail is basically just a free meal. However, poor King is really struggling mentally, so after paying my 50 RM of speeding tickets, let's buy some antidepressants, because surely pills are the answer. For a couple of days now, I'm just poking around stealing valuables to fence, setting up some renovations to support more tenants, and learning to make more interesting foods like tea, which is food. I just checked with Spiff and he says it's food. Once Jonathan finishes his work and we've paid him, there's 2 apartments in something resembling a livable state. Now to find some folks to move in. This person here, Ingrid Clayson, and her family will move into one, which is fine, but as for the other, I'm struggling to find anyone to move into it actually. It's a large apartment, which means it's only really of interest to either the families or wealthier individuals. And as far as I can tell, all of those remaining have more requirements than simply a heated area with a toilet. The Pettinans are the obvious choice, as their only extra requirement is a basement sauna. I did ask the sleepy father if he needs a new place, but, well, he didn't have much to say. On the bright side, whilst looking around for people to exploit with substandard living conditions and predatory tenancy agreements, I found out where Max Masher is from this dude here, who also tells us that we're more than welcome to anything in the apartment he appears to be squatting in. One of said things is a drill press, which can quickly make lockpicks and other metal objects. Much more convenient than the metalworking place we found in the mines. Very handy. I think a lot of people use crafting lockpicks as a solid early moneymaker because Passmore will buy them from you. But personally, I'll be using them to steal things to sell to him. Anyway, here's Max's door. I'm given the option to simply kick it open, and clearly I'm very tempted to do so, but I managed to resist long enough to talk to him in Masher speak and be let through peacefully. He says a lot of things about mash and in a roundabout way tells us what he needs in order to keep mashing. Sugar and yeast, both of which can be bought at the O Market just across the road. But for probably fairly obvious reasons, Max can't go and get them by himself. It's at this point that Land King picks up a new hobby, breaking into people's homes and poorly cooking all of their food. With his pockets full of lockpicks and his aptitude with them ever increasing, we'll be breaking into a whole lot of homes and acting as the world's worst personal chef, producing more food waste than a grocery store that refuses to give away their unsold produce. Anyway, that's all good fun, but if I want to unlock the basement where I can build a sauna for new needy tenants, I need 6,500 OC, which is quite a lot right now. So in between this vengeful food wasting, Land is doing a whole lot of stealing. A whole lot. Like, maybe a worrying amount. Like, maybe an amount where you ask if at this point he's just doing it for fun and it's not even about the money anymore. Oh, no, never mind, he's selling it all to Passmore. It was for the money after all. The police have noticed this, they must have heard all of the shiny things jangling around in my pockets, and now they're chasing me all over the place. Just as I slip away into Decular B, you can hear a Steam achievement ping. That's apparently the moment that I broke free from alcoholism. No longer is Land King a slave to beer. And that's great, but after completing another loop thinking I had successfully evaded the fuzz through the toll gate, they got me. Oh well, as I said earlier, prison ain't so bad. I already sold all of the goods, so once we're out we'll go and turn a fat wad of real money into OC, 6.8 thousand, and that'll get me into the basement, after 2 days of work. Whilst waiting, I'm just poking around the outside of the tenement, I realised something quite important that I should have known for a long time now. For some reason I hadn't realised that I could access this area here, with the one-stop shop. It's literally just down the path from the tenement. It's not currently open, being a Sunday, but we'll visit shortly. You can sell all kinds of random tat there for OC. There's also some potential tenants here, but they demand the courtyard is renovated, so I'm not doing that yet. Also whilst waiting, let's grab the things that Mr. Masher needs from the O Market. It's only 150 OC worth of stuff, so it's no big deal. For doing that, he gives us 3 OC and a rubber duck, which isn't quite gonna do it for me, but he also says he'll get back to mashing, and that's the result we were really after. We'll go let Penty know about that soon, but first I'm going to go break into some more houses and ruin people's meat. Yeah, this is a great one. high quality pork and fish, all reduced to slop. Oh, hi, this is awkward, I didn't realize you were home. Well, goodbye.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Despite all of this fun, Land King is actually still very sad. And the loading screens keep projecting Finnish propaganda at me saying that saunas are good for your mental health. So in we go, to our backyard sauna, where after lighting the barrel fire and splashing some water around, the air temperature is apparently sat at 100 degrees C. That seems pretty hot. And sure enough, I start to get extremely thirsty very quickly and start losing health. But hey, the sad face icon went from orange to yellow, so you can't argue with them results. After a presumably very sweaty hour or so of sleep, we'll now go see Penty, to be properly rewarded for our efforts with Max. 550 real money. That's more like it. He does also say he'll pay us for any mash we make ourselves. I'll give that a go later, but it takes some specialized equipment that I don't currently have. Anyway, that's not important. What is finally finishing off that basement renovation, and getting Samuel started on the sauna down there. I do have a decent chunk of cash and resources left over now, so I decide after another short trip to the money exchange that it's worth upgrading the stairwell, as I assume that will unlock more floors and therefore more apartments filled with potentially valuable junk. Now let's go check this basement out. Was it worth all of the money and fuss? Well, it's got its own cave full of mushrooms and contaminated garbage, so at least the decor is consistent with the rest of the block. Really though, the basement is just the gateway for later game tenement upgrades, as you can build proper plumbing and heating down here. It's also just more space, which I'll put to very good use later. For now though, sauna, which again will take some time to build, time filled with, you guessed it, stealing. I love stealing. I love taking things. Naturally, this results in another short prison sentence, before finally, after all this time, my place is good enough for the Petanans. During all of that, I also finished up the stairwell upgrade, so let's go see what's up there. We've got some rotting furniture, some mushrooms, oh, a little portable generator, that's probably valuable, and also a bear trap. Lovely. After patching up my leg, it's over to Mobleman to collect that cash. Very good. And ho, who's this? I may have just found the solution to my awful mental health. An actual comfortable bed. It costs a sweet 4,000 OC, but I'm doing it. Sleep is important, guys. But my sleep is hardly going to be improved until I get an actual door. And to get one of those, the apartment also needs working electricity, which requires the whole tenement itself to have working electricity. So to upgrade my walls involves a chain of 2 other tenement upgrades, all of which I have the materials for, but not the cash. So you'll never guess what I did next. I love stealing. I love taking things. Of course, having all of this work done on my own place also means I can't live there for a while, meaning I'm simply forced to roam around stealing and generally causing trouble while I wait. And with all the excess money that generates, I also start up on the facade upgrade, to make the exterior of the block look a little bit less crap. After finishing the electricity upgrade in our apartment, but before starting the walls upgrade and locking myself out again for a few more days, I experimented with making mash, because at some point I bought a mashing kettle from Samuel. It can make various kinds of mash, but right now I'm making glowing potato stuff. It's a slow process and it doesn't produce massive quantities, but let's go see how much it's worth to Penty at the speakeasy. 3.4 real money for 10 litres, and he keeps the container. For the time it takes, that doesn't feel worthwhile. Perhaps if you had 10 kettles on the go, all day every day, but for now I'm gonna leave the mashing and get my walls upgraded. So I've stocked up on supplies for a few days in the pod hotel and headed over to Samuel. I need a roll of cloth, and the hardware stall doesn't have any today. Okay, breaking and entering it is. I chose a random door in the Kolhola building and, well, the poor woman probably won't mind if I just take a look. She appears to have bigger fish to fry. And rather conveniently, she's got a crate full of cloth for me. Okay, bye, hope your neck heals up. There we go then. In 2 days we'll have real walls and actual doors that open and close. For those 2 days, I'll just do a little bit more stealing, but mainly it's knocking back fistfuls of sleeping pills and pretending to be a vampire in my pod. Once the pills ran out, I found a cozy stairwell to sit in for 3 hours until my walls finished. Let's go and have a look at them. God blimey, a door. And hoo-wee, look at that. Our bed is now relaxing. When I sleep in it, my mental health improves. Truly, we've made it. For the next couple of days, I split my time between continuing to upgrade the tenement and performing more, almost entirely fruitless mashing experiments. I even grew my own taters to increase the profit margins, but then I had multiple batches fail in a row, and I took this to be the sign from the universe that I should give up. It's not worth it. Find a different way to make money. And that's when it hit me. I was in my apartment staring at my cock. No, not that one, there's nothing new there. This one. The one that's been wandering around on the ground floor of the tenement since I picked it up a few weeks ago for no apparent reason. Surely animals or their constituent parts are of some value in a place like this. That's what planted the seed in my mind. But what fertilized the soil was when I saw that Mobleman was selling cages designed for cats. Oh yes, we're starting a cat farm. It costs 1100 OC, but as you'll see a little later, it's well worth it. So on the way out I pick up a cat, because I assume that I'll need multiple cats in order for them to reproduce. That's normally how this works. In the interface for the cage, it's described as planting cats, which is an interesting way of putting it, but okay. Irritatingly, I can't use my special white cat for this, so I'll need to collect some more strays. Luckily, they're fairly common, so I'll just go about my normal business for now, and pick one up when it has the misfortune to cross my path. Which isn't a likely occurrence whilst sat in a workshop making hundreds of lockpicks, but anyway, we did that. And sold the vast majority of them to Passmore for about 200 RM. That's a neat bit of completely legal, if slightly morally questionable, cash. A couple of days later, as I'm wandering around minding my own business, cat. Cat acquired. So now I have 2 cats. Planted. Hopefully soon they'll pollinate one another. I'll just leave them to it, because I've remembered that there's a desperate young woman living in this bus, and I have a crappy apartment for her. According to that Steam achievement ping, I've now filled half of the block with tenants. Nice. At this point, stairwell upgrades are starting to get really seriously expensive. To unlock the next level up costs 13,500 OC, but I kind of just feel like I have to know what's up there, so I'll do it. The next upgrade, to unlock the top floor, costs 50k, so we need to do some serious earning soon. Luckily then, our first kitten is growing. Also luckily, I've learned of a rather profitable crop called rye. It turns out you can actually plant the product of a crop, not just the seeds, so you can very quickly fill these large indoor spaces at Kuhara's farm. Rye finishes growing in just about a day, so I can come back here, harvest and replant the whole plot whilst selling the excess to Kuhara every day. Very good. But now it's back to stealing. Doing which gets me level 10 lockpicking, the maximum level. To be honest, I haven't really noticed the difference in my lockpicking ability. It gets a little bit easier with each level, but it feels like a pretty small increment. More importantly, the next day I got something in the post. It's a little flag. Very reminiscent of a RuneScape skill cape, but without the multiple days worth of Wintertodd. Ugh. Anyway, we're just crossing over a month here now, as a Steam achievement just told me. I learned a number of little stats like this through Steam achievements. That's not interesting, but it is what happened. More interesting is this greenhouse full of rye. Just look at it all. Some of it died, but that's alright. Altogether, after replanting the place, I had about 900 OC worth to hand over to Kuhara. And again, I can do this every day. In the time I spent stealing and growing rye, the stairwell upgrade has finished. The one we spent over 10 grand for. Let's go see whether it was worth it. To be honest, there's just more garbage up here. After completely ransacking all 3 apartments, the total for selling everything to Mobleman was worth 6.5k. Half of the cost of the stairwell renovation. Well, I'm still gonna get the last upgrade. I have a compulsion to explore the top floor. Eventually. But to be fair, the cage is filling up with cats, so depending on how valuable a cat or its internals are, that might not be so bad. Whilst waiting for more cats to grow, I realised that it's probably not a bad idea to go and finish off that glowstick quest. I left it because I needed a few thousand OC, and have since spent tens of thousands on largely meaningless tenement upgrades. But then, instead of going and finishing that quest, I started the first courtyard upgrade before getting into smelting. Yes, I started smelting scrap metal into ingots in my apartment. I don't really know why, but the upshot is that in the time it took me to do all of these things, more cats have grown. Also, at some point I bought a chest freezer to keep all of the meat in. Whatever, it's not important. What is that I have 8 cats in it, and whilst butchering them, I saw that not just meat was being produced, but also rolls of leather, 1 per cat. Huh. Those are worth 200 OC. That's pretty wild. We might be onto something here. I'd like more cages. The kind man at the one stop will buy this leather for 180 OC each, and he also sells furniture, including a dishwasher, a wonderful object that I've been hunting for since I learned that it exists. You can use this to clean stolen objects, allowing them to be sold at much higher prices. I'm particularly excited to use this on booze, as it's both plentiful and valuable, and also because Passmore won't buy it for some reason. I also bought something else here. A camera to set up in the bedroom. Don't worry about that, it's for my Patreon. With the dishwasher set up cleaning bottles of wine and the cats continuing to breed, now we finally head back into the mines, where Mr. Talks to Himself tells me that he'll give me the radiation permit thingy if I clear and fix my tenement tunnel. What exactly does that entail then? Well, first things first, I'll grab 24 dynamite from the mine mart and go to do a lot of exploding. However, 24 was not enough, and now I'm pretty well out of money. But it's Saturday and I get rent payments on a Sunday night, so Land King has a date with his old friends, the Sleeping Pills. After renting a bed in the mine hotel, which doesn't seem particularly safe, he'll go and do a lot of sleeping. And eventually, there's rent. So now we can finish up blasting in the tunnel, which doesn't actually quite solve the problem because we also have to pay Ken Nakahara here to do some building. This requires some specialist resources alongside the usual stuff. Importantly, rails. We need rails. 8 of them. But hey, you know what? It turns out I can make those in my apartment smelter. So maybe that wasn't a wasted effort after all. So back up above ground we go, where our front yard is now finished. Very neat. It only has a little bit of trash in it now. In case you're wondering, I upgraded this so that the Lapinyoki, who live in tents over by the one stop, can move in, adding very slightly to my rental income. Good stuff. Anyway, rails. We're here for rails. We can make them, but they cost 2 steel bars and have a 44% chance to fail. And also the smelter uses gas that's quite hard to get reliably. So, in other words, this could take a while. But this does give me time to earn some good cash. It's time to get serious about cat farming. That space in the basement, that's now a basement cat farm. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. I also continued the farming grind. No, not that one. The one at Yompe's with the rye. Anyway, yes, this actually does take a really long time. Multiple in-game days of crafting rails, checking multiple shops for either the parts that I need or just more cat cages, and harvesting industrial quantities of rye. And after all of that, I decided to explore around the service area in the mines just a little bit more, and you'll never guess what I found. 3 rails in a box next to someone's tent, and then 4 more in another random box by the ore drop-off. Well, okay then, that'll do it. Go on, Ken, get to work. It's a little bit anticlimactic just to find what I needed after spending days trying to manufacture it myself, but whatever, it's about the destination, not the journey, or something like that. I forget how the saying goes. Anyway, that'll take a day, and then in theory I should be able to get back to chasing Hans, who's been stuck down here for weeks at this point. I'm sure he's fine. While we wait for that, let's check in on the cats. Oh Jesus, oh god, what have I done? There's so many cats. Oh, I'm so sorry, but I need their leather for money. I'm really glad that the one-stop, person doesn't ask any questions about the stuff I'm selling it. Okay, back down in the mines, the job is done, and therefore I can now get the permit that I need to go deeper. And Heska will give me the door code for the radioactive zone. It's 1234. Okay, fine. Whatever. It's about the journey, not the destination. A while ago I bought a dosimeter so that I can see how irradiated I'm getting down here, but it's noisy and annoying. I think it must be broken or something. Incidentally, does anyone know what these yellow barrels are? Anyway, there's a big door here that won't open until radiation levels measure low enough. Thankfully, a note told me that these big trains here are radiation shielded. So I'll just shove them in front of this weird thing that makes my eyeballs go fuzzy, and hopefully that will do the trick. Sure enough, it did, and on the other side we find a car, which is strange, but more interestingly a little wooden shack, inside of which the screen starts shaking. There's a toilet here, but it's far too late for Land King. He already lost that battle. Maybe because of those strange fuzzy rocks. Anyway, never mind. Notes here allude to some strange pipe that Hans and somebody else were trying to follow. To where? I don't know, and neither do they by the sounds of things, but a little ways further into the caves, sure enough, there's a strange red pipe thingy down there. Even further into the caves, I found something else. It's a giant door. There's someone here. Oh wait, never mind. There was someone here, but they've gotten some nasty red mushroom disease and fallen over in front of this code lock. I probably should have brought the OS rat down here with me, but, I didn't, so... Oops. Right, back we go then. On the way back through that mine encampment, I searched it a bit more thoroughly and found a new, larger backpack. And after a short journey through the mines again, we emerge into the cat basement, which, through the magic of smell-o-vision, you can now enjoy. Please connect your smell module with the cat piss add-on now. Alright, but for real, now we can finally finish that quest for Anya down in Hans's basement. We tell her about what we found down there, including the red mushrooms, at which point somebody else named Frederick pipes up on the call to ask about them. Good thing I just instinctively pick up potentially dangerous fungus, I guess. Turns out he lives in Tenement A, a building I've been unable to get into so far, so that will be fun to explore. But first though, Eliana will now take our photo for a passport. After I've robbed her apartment, that is. When she flashbangs me, I get this weird vision. I see strange red lights and get some strange instructions about red rocks. I don't know what that's about, but if you look really far into the background there, it says subscribe. Weird. After that, Eliana says it'll now take a few days for a passport to arrive in the mail, so let's go check out Tenement A. There's some new and interesting apartments to loot here, but really I'm here to talk to Frederick about mushrooms. He asks me to help him out with an experiment. He's keeping a shroomed up person in here and has us prepare some extract with the red mushrooms to send down their IV line, which, perhaps predictably, turns them red. Fair enough. He thanks me for the help and gives me a whopping 1,700 real money. He also gives us another job, just to check in on someone he's been medicating. She's called Pia, and she was supposed to have a caretaker already, but she left a note saying she couldn't do it anymore. Pia's too needy. She asks us to try and find Alice, her former helper, but I'm gonna be real, I probably won't do that. One of the residents of Tenement A is a woman named Emma, who sells cats for 102 real money each. So I had wondered if therefore she also bought cats at a good price. But no, she'll pay 8 OC per cat. Well then, Emma, you forced my hand. If you won't buy them, then the robot at the one stop will buy their skins. And I'm going to butcher them right here, out of spite. How'd you like that, Emma? Right, anyway, sure enough, after a few days of that sort of behaviour, our passport arrives. So I hurry along to the bazaar guard and he says the developers haven't released the bazaar yet. The develop... Excuse me? You can't do that, this is a video game. But, okay, yeah, so basically we've pretty much reached the end of the game's story content so far. A lot of quests from here on will point to characters that aren't yet in the game, but I would still like to access the top floor of the tenement block. Surely there's something fun up there waiting to be found. It costs 50,000 OC after all. So how have we been making the most money so far? Well, actually, it's mostly been cat leather recently, but before that, it was stealing. And remember a long time ago now, when Passmore had us check that there was indeed access to the bank from down in the water tunnels? Well, now that we've gone and helped out Eliana and got our passport, he's willing to let us in on the heist. Apparently, he has a friend on the inside who's going to leave access to the vault open between 11 PM and 3 AM each night, so that we can blast our way in and steal all of the shinies. Alrighty then, let's go check that out. What happens is, you go into the bank vault and then they gas you to death. I see. I tried to race the gas up to the director's office where there's a panel to disable the alarm, but I wasn't able to manage this before dying. However, down in the mines, some time ago, I found a proper, real, full-on gas mask and filter. It's back at home, so let's go fetch it. And while I'm up here, I might as well sell a load of cat leather too. I'm sat on a good chunk of cash right now. Damn. Oh right, yeah, gas mask. Got it. Let's try this again. The gas mask does nothing. Okay, very good. I thought I was being smart here, but never mind. And when I tried again, I realized that I'm actually supposed to time this and sneak past the cameras. I see. Very good. Up in the director's office, which appears to have a whole connected apartment for some reason, there are various clues. Strings of numbers in various files on his computer, and a note that says the security code is the dude's birthday. Some of the strings of numbers are safe codes, so we can get some decent cash from this one in his office here, but the main thing we're after is his birthday. Which was conveniently, I guess, quite recent, based on the card and gift on the table here. We'll also be taking the gift, by the way. Righty then, the cameras are off and I have the vault code. It's 8888, very secure. Inside, we see that it's sort of already been robbed. Or maybe it just looks like this normally, I don't know. Whatever, there's still a good bit of cash here, just strewn about on the floor and also in the safes. There is also this Cobalt 60, which is probably a perfectly healthy thing to carry around with me, so let's just get out of here. When Passmore asks how the heist went, I told him that somebody already got there and that there was absolutely nothing valuable left. And then I sold him an absolute shedload of valuables. He's not the brightest, that Passmore. But he does give us some people to talk to try and track down whoever got there first. But of course, both of those contacts are in the bazaar, which doesn't exist. So that's the end of that thread for now. All I can do at this point is butcher cats and slowly fence more of my stolen goods to Passmore each day as his funds replenish, in order to build up the cash required for that last stairwell upgrade. It only takes a few days, most of which was actually spent waiting for the hardware guy to stock some glass that it turned out I didn't actually need. I was reading the required materials for the level that I already have. I think the mushrooms have gotten into my actual real-life brain at this point. Whatever. That's going to take 3 days, so let's go and get cozy with our old friend Sleeping Pill again, because I've run out of interesting things to fill that time with. The stairwell upgrades don't just give us access to new floors, of course, they do also make the place much nicer. It's almost looking decent in here now. About on par with a block of British Council flats, I would say. So up we go to the 6th and final floor. What treasures are hidden in here? Well, honestly, nothing. It looks like one of the apartments was used to film torture videos, but that's about the most interesting thing up here. Okay then, that's the entire tenement cleared and ready for renovation. Renovation that it's not going to get, because I'm done for now. Without a further story thread to follow or access to the bazaar for the purposes of buying and selling more valuable goods, the process of going further would just be too repetitive for me. Wake up, butcher cats, sell leather, harvest rye, eat taters, take sleeping pill, and repeat ad nauseum. I'm just not built for that kind of repetitive grinding. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to my old school RuneScape farm runs. But seriously, I'm happy enough with what I've accomplished here. It's been nearly 50 days and my place is an absolute rancid dump. But it's my rancid dump, and that's got to count for something. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like, but whatever you do, remain indoors. I should think after this video I really don't need to provide a specific reason why. Anyway, until next time, goodbye.